All right, welcome. Sorry about the ever so slight delay. All my fault. So I don't know if he's on my left or my right. He's in front of me, technically. But yeah, this is him. His name, his mum doesn't call him apostate prophet, but we all do. And yeah, if you don't know who he is, where you been, and why you're here, that's about it. So I'm gonna let him speak for a little while, and then we're gonna discuss, I don't know, probably Islam. So over to you.
I think you should just let me speak and just leave. I'll take over from here.
The eagle has landed. Yeah.
No, yeah. So my mother doesn't call me apostate prophet. She should. Everybody should. But yeah. So this is me. I'm an ex-Muslim and some guy who just happens to make YouTube videos because he loves it. And today we want to sit together and talk about some stuff that is related to Islam and to Muhammad's craziness. I don't want to call it craziness. I mean, Muhammad had some problems, it looks like, and some people might think that he was demon possessed. I will just say I think he was mentally unwell and probably had a brain disorder. And I think we want to talk about such things a little bit, right, Kay?
Yes. So if anyone's about to have a hissy fit or collapse, you're more than welcome to go and watch a video of a kitten, potentially a rainbow flag in the background. I'm not sure. But other than that, I guess buckle up. I don't have anything prepared other than my brain, which is not 50% deficient. So I feel like we'll be okay. Off the top of my head, I'm going to reel off some potential, like you say, problems, difficulties that if he existed, Muhammad certainly displayed, and that's according to the Islamic literature. So misogyny, racism, delusions of grandeur and delusions, hallucinations, suicidal ideation, psychopathy / sociopathy, a preoccupation with sex. I'm not going to say necrophilia, but I feel like I just did. What else? There is more. Oh, a preoccupation with odd numbers, counting things, weird theology.
Yeah.
Believed that inanimate objects were talking to him. So auditory hallucinations also. You think of any more?
I started a thread on Twitter yesterday about Muhammad's mental problems and things that look like he had a brain disorder. There are still lots of things that I didn't add. There are still lots of things that I did that I didn't add that I probably should add. Even some things that you just mentioned, and something that I can think of is a moment where he has an obsession with a dog that is at home, because apparently the angel Gabriel doesn't visit him all day long. He doesn't appear to him, and then he becomes very sad and very upset. And he's like, "What's going on? He's not coming. He's not coming." And then apparently he sees the dog at home and removes the dog, says, "Get rid of this dog." And then the angel Gabriel comes. And then he says that angels don't like dogs, so he wants all dogs removed in town and wants them all killed. And later he then forbids the killing of dogs after that.
I can have an estimation. I think it was a puppy. I think eventually it was also pictures and bells that would prevent angels entering. For Jibril, I mean, I guess he's like the top bod. But I feel like the fact that Muhammad was a little bit of a bandit may have something to do with the divine revelation that dogs are not like all that, because they obviously guard caravans and property and make a lot of noise when you're borrowing stuff that you're not going to give back. So
the thing is, it just looks like something that that somebody who is mentally unwell, in his case, and in his environment and time where people don't understand, psychology, would come up with. I think this is, look, if it was the case that this angel Gabriel is an actual angel from God, or is a demon, it wouldn't make sense that this angel doesn't come because there's a dog in there, and why would that be the case?
You've skipped a step, because this Jibril, it's not Gabriel because he's like a real life like thing of theology, but initially, I believe Khadijah, to verify that the angel in Hira, or Muhammad initially assessed it to be a demon, and then Khadijah, I think through Warwick, like talked him around. But as a litmus test, I can't believe I'm speaking about this out loud. But yes, whilst he was sitting on her lap, as one does, she exposed her, let's call it underparts, because she was adamant that an angel would not, they wouldn't stick around if a lady's vagina, there you go, I said it, was on display. And I feel like that's potentially nonsense because, of course, if angels are like among us, as it were, I'm sure they've seen all the bits and pieces, especially when, in biblical theology, they had a little fling with humans at one stage. So, back at the ranch. I feel like if the neurological disorder theory has credence, which I believe it does because of the sound of the bells and the redness of the face and the collapsing, it's possible that because he pre-booked Jibril to show up, he said it was an appearance that was already booked. He wasn't just hanging around. He said, no, he's going to be here. And then when he didn't have an episode or a handy like pre-prepared divine revelation, maybe that it's still it's an odd one. It must have been because he's thinking, well, I'm still great. Like, so it must be something else.
But he had this thing. According to those early narrations about him, the early reports about him, he would become extremely upset when Jibril wouldn't come to him. And according to some reports, which talk about the earliest stages of Jibril showing himself to him to bring revelations from Allah, there was a time where he wouldn't, where the angel didn't come anymore, and he became so upset that he wanted to jump off a cliff and kill himself. And later at that point with the dogs, he is again in such a state because Jibril doesn't appear to him. He becomes extremely upset and all day does nothing else but just very anxiously wait for Jibril to come and doesn't understand why he doesn't come. And eventually he says, well, angels don't like dogs. They don't like pictures. They don't like shapes. Get rid of them. Get rid of all of them.
Women's clothes. Oh no, that's the wrong one.
So there is something going on here.
I feel like there was an emotional dependence. I'm not quite sure of your timeline. I think that after Hira, when he was suicidal, and that's in the Islamic literature, when he did attempt to step off of mountains and stuff, it would be Jibril who would come and like facilitate his well-being to return. He would say, no, honestly, like you are a prophet, you are the greatest, and not to worry.
Okay,
so maybe when the extended period came, he had an emotional reliance, like it was his emotional support angel.
Okay, that might be true. I think in the case of the suicidal part, that is because he thinks he's going crazy and he wants to throw himself.
He's just been squeezed by what he.
That's right. That's right. Thank you for the correction. So that's when he comes and says, no, you are a prophet. And then at a later stage, Jibril doesn't come to him anymore. Then he gets very, very upset, very depressed. Okay, thank you. That was
maybe his neurological condition. Like if that's genuinely it's very difficult. Obviously, there's no pathology. There's no like chance of an autopsy or anything like that. But if he suffered with a degenerative neurological disorder, there's the real possibility that it was in some form of remission for some time, or that his, diet changed, or any use of psychotropic anything's camel urine may not have been what it is now. Like, he just didn't have the dates for a little while. But maybe he didn't wear women's clothing often enough to get the really good messages. Maybe Jibril was just like on a bit of downtime. In Tahiti.
Had no connection, yeah. Well, here's the thing. I believe you took some psychology classes or something, or you have some qualification in the field, right? And I remember when we take psychology classes in academia, there is often this sort of training that you go through where you are given a specific case of, M does this and this and this and this, and you are then supposed to figure out what this person is dealing with and whether it's abnormal or not. You cannot diagnose the person, but you can go for a best guess of what is taking place. If you look at Muhammad, what you just mentioned makes sense if you think that he might have, for example, had some sort of epilepsy, which untreated gave him a mental illness because it had an impact on his brain. Because the hadiths also explain, like in the hadith, it says, I think it's Aisha who says that towards the end of his life, in his last parts, he had constant inspirations. The inspirations would not stop in the last part of his life. He had constant inspirations, constant states of inspiration, and then he died. And with epilepsy, for example, and with some other diseases, it's known, with other disorders, it is known that they intensify and increase toward older age, or toward when the brain becomes more damaged, or
Elasticity
yeah,
decreases with age.
whatever
The
you want to call it. So
neuroplasticity, that's it.
that makes sense. I had a hadith pulled up for that yesterday, in which it explicitly says that. Oh yeah, here, narrated by Anas bin Malik. Allah sent down His divine inspiration to His apostle continuously and abundantly during the period preceding his death, till He took him unto Him. That was the period of the greatest part of revelation, and Allah's apostle died after that. And what they call revelation or inspiration is probably him having episodes, which he describes as hearing the ringing of a bell, or seeing hallucinations, or heavy sweating, and so on.
However, the ringing of the bell he himself attributed to Shaitan at one stage. He said, well, I feel like it may have been when he prohibited music, or he certainly referenced a bell. He said the sound of the bell is of Shaitan, or something along those lines. And then clearly a different time, because I don't feel like he was that obvious, like in real life. He then attributed his greatest revelations, or his most strong divine revelation, it would be preceded by the ringing of a bell. And that's a definite sign of a neurological disorder, like the clanging kind of auditory stuff.
What that makes me think is, I thought about the same thing. I thought about something else. He had an obsession with people who claim to receive revelations, like that boy Ibn Sayyad. He was obsessed with that guy and spied on him, like he went into his garden and spied on a little child to find out whether he is the Antichrist or not. And this is the Prophet Muhammad, right? He goes and hides himself.
Who also kissed the penis of Hassan and married a child.
And he was so obsessed about him because the child made implications, like he knew certain secrets. He knew something about the unseen.
Something about water and a throne, was it? And he had a vision.
Smoke. Muhammad said, "What am I holding in my hands?" And he said, "Smoke," or something like that. It's like the narration is kind of weird, but maybe it was, text or something like that. And the kid was claiming that he himself is a prophet of God. And Muhammad was very upset about that, and claiming that this guy might be Dajjal. What I think about when you tell me that the ringing of the bell is also associated with Shaitan, it could be that he thinks, when I hear the sound of a ringing of a bell, I receive revelations. But, the ringing of a bell otherwise might seem like it's a deception, and
I see what you mean, like a false flag.
Yeah,
like nobody else can hear a bell, and that's from Allah. It's only
because others are false prophets, and they are pretenders. I am the true prophet.
I feel like he actually accepted that child, though. He was initially skeptical and not hostile, but I felt when I read I've got it somewhere. I've got the file on one of my phones, but I felt that he was a bit cloying initially, like a bit too reverent for somebody who decreed himself the only, the biggest guy in town, as it were. But the boy said something that it could have gone either way. And eventually I believe he did, because he attested something or other that Muhammad adopted, like I said, oh yeah, that's me. Then I feel like he accepted him, but I couldn't swear to that one, but I love promising a link. I'll post the link.
Well, the kid eventually did convert to Islam. I guess.
Was there a sword involved, or the tip of a sword?
I'm not sure how it went. I don't think we have reports of how he converted, but I think eventually everybody was kind of compelled or forced to convert to Islam because Muslims became you can even read this in Ibn Ishaq's biography. He says that the people did not incline toward Islam, but they saw that the Muslims became very victorious, and then people were intimidated and felt compelled to convert to Islam. So he eventually
Also,
just became a Muslim.
into what we were discussing a minute ago, like off the count, like the prosperity preachers. You could say people see the affluence and people see the outward trappings of wealth or prosperity, and because they don't genuinely believe that, not for you, but for Christians, because they don't genuinely believe in the grace of God, they attribute outward trappings of wealth and success. Oh, God must have done it because they're good people, kind of thing. When it's like antithetical to genuine Christianity. But yeah, I don't think it was because they were all charging around winning battles. I feel like it was probably because they were at the village gates, like responding to an imaginary attack, as it were.
Yeah. Muhammad built this thing there, this power structure, and built a mob basically, and they were
there's
supposed to
protection
respond.
money. There's blood in, blood out.
Yeah.
It's pretty
I mean,
similar.
if you live in certain areas in the world where there are criminal gangs, those criminal gangs are not stronger than the governments, or are not stronger than international organizations, but you are still
Mostly, yeah.
afraid, and you comply with their demands because
I believe that Pablo Escobar once offered to settle his country's national debt just before he built his own prison and moved in. Like literally, he had his own. I mean, he was still shot like an animal, to be fair, and they all posed, pictures and stuff. But whilst he had the influence, it depends what you consider power. Like in certain countries, the government they're just puppets anyway. Like they're just. I know of at least one government where a certain Islamic pressure group, like things are run by them, like a government policy before they're implemented. And Nigeria is just utterly.
I just had somebody yesterday from Nigeria, a Nigerian journalist on my channel.
Yeah, it's pretty. So off the top of my head, I very often speak about Nigeria, not necessarily because it's not more important than any other country where Christians are highly and extremely persecuted. However, it's number one in terms of being killed solely for your faith. And notwithstanding the girl who was just set on fire and stoned to death on camera, no shame, no fear of reprisals or punishment for the people who did it. I was reading it yesterday to a friend of mine. There's something along the lines of, I wouldn't want to say, in the first 3 months of this year, it's in the tens of thousands already. Nigeria alone, the murder of Christians there outstrips the other 49 top persecution countries put together. It's out of control. The very first story that I ever came across was a Nigerian pastor who'd been held hostage, and he was doing his little, IS, it was Boko Haram, doing the hostage video. And the reason I was so impressed, it was because he was praying, asking forgiveness for his cat. They still beheaded him, they didn't get. But that was touching for me. And then it just, once I started praying and looking into it, it's an endless sea of just blood and, genuine persecution, as opposed to some of the cases of Islamophobia that I've heard.
Yeah, I talked to that guy yesterday. David Hundain is his name. He's a journalist, and he lives somewhere else because living in Nigeria is not safe for him. He says, I understand that, and he basically says, this is how Nigeria is. The south is secular, non-Muslim, Christian. The north is Islamist, but the north is not very productive, but they live off the back of the south, which does all the production and money and everything. But still, they want all the power in the country. If you if they impose something Islamic and you disagree with what they do, then you are basically threatened with your life. You constantly walk in eggshells.
There was a case last year of a 10-year-old boy. 10, 9, he was below the age of like English like even culpability, legal liability. So yeah, 10, 11. And he received 10 years in prison in Nigeria for, I don't know if it was insulting Allah. I feel like he was a Muslim, but there's nothing in the constitution of Nigeria regarding blasphemy laws at all. So I'm not quite sure how they like that went through the courts, whether it went through the courts or just Sharia courts, but it's pretty ridiculous. It's not only like 300 children at a time repeatedly, like multiple instances every year of children being abducted en masse. Like the Chibok girls were still, they've not all been released. And now another few from the same region were taken, I think, yesterday, or it was reported yesterday. But it just seems that there is not even fear. There's just no, I mean, Pakistan, there was a case where an American was being tried for blasphemy, which is a joke because it was something to do with Muhammad, not God. But
Muhammad is God.
A child walked into the court unarmed, something like the Godfather films, I don't know, managed to acquire a gun, shot the accused in front of the judge, in front of everybody. Fair enough, he was actually arrested because it was an American. But the guards who had him in the back of the meat wagon were taking selfies with him, like, and he was some sort of hero for doing that. And people get ripped, literally, physically torn limb from limb in Pakistan. It's not just an isolated incident for what are mostly trumped up blasphemy charges. So,
yeah, in Nigeria, the case with that girl, she was beaten, killed, burned. The Islamic government, the authorities arrested some people who were supposedly involved, but the public went crazy and people started rioting, demanding that those arrested should be released because they did the right thing. And here's the issue: the Islamic authorities will probably not come up with a very good judgment. They will probably not punish those people very well. And the superior federal government can't really do very much because they are under constant influence and threat from the Islamic North. It's a very sad country. I don't know. It's like,
well, Buhari, the premier or prime minister, president, I don't know what they call them. I do, but I can't remember. He's Muslim, and he's in the past. I mean, I feel like there was it 300, 200. I lose count. There are so many cases, but en masse, a load of school children went on an extended break with some extremists, and he outright denied that it had happened, and it happened in his home state. Yeah. He just went, "What? Oh no, I was looking over there. Sorry, I don't know." Like he denied it. So it's not even an honest attempt to tackle any, because it was financially motivated, allegedly. I mean, other than the Quran and, Hadith, because to be fair, Boko Haram kill 40% of their victims are Muslims, or people who self-identify as Muslims. They don't view them as Muslims.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So they're equal opportunities haters, but that doesn't make anything any better.
Yeah. But we were talking about Muhammad's mental health. So.
We are. And I feel like maybe he's at the root of this. I don't know how you feel about that statement.
I don't know. I think it's
such a nice guy.
Yeah, he was a friendly dude. Yeah.
Children loved him. Sometimes. Okay,
or
so
the
what
other
else?
way around.
Okay, so he had misogyny. I mean, that's not technically a mental illness, but if it's severe enough, he certainly had a complicated relationship with the female of the species, as it were. Like, he was either utterly dismissive, as in ploughing a till for, I can't remember the love letter that he wrote. But yeah, so there's that, the 50% deficient, that the majority of hell is made up with women, that kind of thing. Or he was pretty cloying in terms of Aisha and Khadijah, certainly. And call me a cynic, I feel that may be to do with more of a power play
Yeah.
than a genuine affection. But what do you think?
And there was also this thing. Now, when we talk about mental problems and all that, I don't want to be denigrating or anything. I'm just pointing these things out to explain that Muhammad was a human who had problems. He was not a prophet of God or anything. But there is this one incident that I find just amazing, which is when it comes to women. He walks outside, according to a very well-known narration. He walks outside and sees a woman walk by, and the sight of a woman walking outside becomes so uncomfortable to him that he has a pressing problem and hurries home to one of his wives, Zainab in this case, and immediately has sex with her to relieve his problem. And then after he's relieved, he goes out to the people and says, the woman comes in the shape of a devil. So whenever you see a woman, go to your wife, to basically
Hang
have
on.
sex.
So the devil comes in the shape of a woman, I reckon would make more sense.
Oh, wait, did I say the opposite? No, yeah.
Yeah, don't worry. It's just all of us. You just threw under the bus. But that's all right, because I mean, you clearly are a prophet. I mean, it says it on the screen. So
No, it actually says the woman comes and goes in the shape of a devil. That's what he actually says.
So he gets turned on by devils as opposed to
Well,
ladies.
I guess the implication there is when a woman comes and goes, and she she incites you. She deceives you with her appearance. So
Hold on, it's not she, it's a he, because he's saying it's a shaitan, a jinn. Let's say, I don't know, like a malevolent spirit who's got some corporeal nature. A devil shows up in the guise of a woman. So it's not really a woman. It's someone who identifies as a woman potentially, but is actually a demon.
Or women have the devil in them, and that's why.
I advise you to tread very carefully. So
that's what he says. That's not.
Then it must be true. Obviously.
So that's what he says. He comes out and says, the woman comes in the shape of a devil. So when you see a woman outside, go to your wife and get rid of
how
what
about when
is
you've got
within
four?
you.
Which one do you choose? And how do you know that all of them have had the devil? Maybe they've had the hell scared out of them.
Well, if you have women at home, then you can use those to relieve yourself from whatever the devil women outside give you. But here's the thing. I mean, this is known as hypersexuality. This is it's weird that the prophet of Allah, the Almighty, Allah's prophet, who is the perfect human being, has this problem that people among us are supposed to have, because they are not the perfect prophets of Allah. And you would look up to him, but he has
the
genuine
prophets, like what I would deem genuine, like as in, because I'm a Christian, the biblical, let's put it that way, prophets, none of them were supposed to be perfect. It's pretty much in the job description that you're going to be fallible, you're going to be sinful, you're going to have doubts potentially, you're going to have problems, because it's like, if nothing else, it's a brilliant way to illustrate God's faithfulness and overcoming of, Moses, even, who's mentioned so many times in the Quran, like the micromanagement that Yahweh, like he's like, oh no, but what if I say this and they say that, and Yahweh's like, no, you say this, and they will say that, then you pick up the stick, it will become a snake. You do it. Like he's so like he's giving him all of the lines, like, don't worry, you say that, like. And at one point Moses is like, oh, can't you get someone else? Like, my brother's looking pretty calm, or So it was an Islamic innovation, or an introduction to theology that claims to have its base in Yahweh, that prophets are perfect. Obviously Christ is a different kettle of fish, as it were, but Muhammad wouldn't necessarily know that, because he got a lot of the genealogy and the the stuff.
And I mean, that's not supposed to be part of the theology or of the religious doctrines of this religion that he's trying to adopt. In his religion, suddenly prophets are considered these flawless, perfect people, and he himself.
Unless they've got the words of Satan on their lips, because after he did that, he threw everyone else under the bus and said, "Wow, it's not just me, bro." And then, so how are they now? Like, I wonder how that's. I mean, it's contradictory to my mind, my little female mind, but I wonder how, if anyone ever said to him, what? Like, I don't see that much in the Hadith. People going, "You joking?" Or any like.
Yeah.
No one ever. Oh, and it says, what is it? Do not ask questions if you feel that the answer will distress you. But what, are
Yeah.
you psychic now? How do you know if the answer is going to distress? The answer could be yeah, or the answer could be nah, like, or maybe. Or,
You know what's
how
very
do you
funny?
know?
There is a hadith that I came across yesterday that I never really paid attention to, or that I didn't really see in the past,
There's
which
so
says
many.
something along the lines of, I'm trying to remember it, but it says something along the lines of, when the prophet was alive, we would not, you know, chat and talk, with our women, with women very much, in fears that there would be a revelation that would come concerning us. But after the prophet died, we started to freely, engage in, yeah, in whatever we want to talk about.
Sorry, let me just get that one straight. So, because you've got to try it at least, even though you've got to turn your brain into slush. But it didn't associate much with women. I would have thought they'd say, like, quietly from the side of their mouth, in case Mohammed decided there was no adoption and, well, I don't know, something or other, and like bring her over it. But no, it's in case Mohammed had a revelation specifically about them.
Maybe they were afraid that Muhammad was going to have
The
a revelation
revelation being that chick's mine, bro. That
specifically
kind
about
of
their
thing.
wives, and like, hey, that wife will serve a grand mission on Allah's planet for all of us. So you must divorce her, and I must marry her to prove
He
to
must
people
have
that.
been laughing all the way to the car bar, oftentimes, like, just if he existed. I
Okay,
mean, what
here
a
I have the
weird.
narration. Here I have the narration. It says, Sahih Bukhari 5187. During the lifetime of the Prophet, we used to avoid chatting leisurely and freely with our wives, lest some divine inspiration might be revealed concerning us. But when the Prophet had died, we started chatting leisurely and freely with them. I just read that and I thought, that is quite odd.
It's legit. I mean, I often don't speak to other humans when my friends are around, just in case. God, like, what? Yeah, it's not. I mean, that does it. Like, that testifies anyway to the very localized, personally beneficial to Muhammad nature of these revelations for all time and all peoples.
Yeah.
Like, it's almost as if, it's all made up.
Yeah, people were like, "Oh, whew, he died. Now we can do whatever we want." Not
That's
that.
literally the exact opposite of what happened with Jesus. No one was like, "Oh, what?" I mean, maybe the Romans, I don't know, but none of the Christians were like, "Right, let's get going then."
All
Like,
right, now let's have fun. Yeah.
exactly, yeah, bring out the party poppers. It didn't go like that at all. Back to his mental health. Do you want to pick another?
Yeah, I have I have an endless supply. I mean, we have the Quran. The Quran basically says, I picked out several Quran verses earlier to put them in my list of things, but
I did research on the sly. I didn't do any.
no, well,
But
I researched for a Twitter thread, and I thought it would be nice to
I
switch through.
see. Now I feel special. Thanks.
Well, the Quran says, for example, in chapter 81:22, and your companion is definitely not mad. He's not crazy. In 52:29, it says, so remember, Muhammad, you are definitely not, by the favor of your God, a soothsayer or a madman. It says again, you are not a madman. It says in another verse again, those who disbelieve slip with their eyes when they hear the message and say, indeed, he's mad. And then it goes on in other verses and says, those before you were also called mad, but then the truth came upon them and then they were, punished and this and that. And in another verse, it says, and they are saying, are we to leave our gods for a mad poet? So here's the thing. It's not just us. we are not making this up and saying he was probably mad, or people probably thought he was mad. He was not very sane. People around him, obviously looking at the Quran, were quite frequently saying this guy is not normal. He has a problem. And he himself was suspicious that he might have a problem,
Oh, for
according to the
sure.
Quran
At the
itself.
beginning, certainly
Yeah.
he believed himself to have been demonically visited. He knew himself to be suicidal. The rocks were talking to him. I think the trees were saluting him. I can't remember which way, or at least giving
Trees
him
were greeting him.
salutations.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it's hardly, if it comes as a shock, then I can't help these people. I don't know. Like they should maybe read.
Here's the thing: I read the Quran, and now looking at it from the outside, not believing that this is a divine revelation, I look at it and see that the Quran repeatedly tries to convince, in many different parts, repeatedly tries to convince others and Muhammad himself that he is not mentally ill,
Unstable.
not
My
unstable, not
mind,
possessed.
like with regards to like Jay Smith and David Wood, like just as I guess like people that you may know, everybody like who argue whether or not Muhammad existed. I do feel reticence in saying outright that he didn't, even with the like growing or mounting, circumstantial stuff, because of the fact that it's included in the literature, like such embarrassing and like falsifiable, as it were, like like things that are going to come to pass, and his reaction to stuff, and authenticated hadith that show him in such a poor light for somebody who was claiming to be an exemplar for all mankind for all time. Like I feel that, I mean, I know it's like from embarrassment, as it were, but if you're making somebody up, you would make them up to be better than Jesus, at least, because you've got Isa sitting in the Quran there, like pretending.
Well, I would say I tend to agree that he probably existed, most probably. I think even I'm not a historian, but I know how historians analyze these things, and they usually go for, okay, this person is a historical person if there is enough evidence to support the existence of that person, unless there is like convincing evidence not to the opposite.
Yeah, the problem with that line of sufficiency of evidence, I guess, is that the evidence of an absence of the evidence is not evidence of the absence, but also from the time of at least post Uthman, like there's just too much scope for fabricated evidences, even though they're genuinely ancient sources now. Still, I would take as more telling. I believe, I don't know where I've seen it or heard of its existence, but there's a Jewish account of laughing him out of town kind of thing. That I would take to be utterly reliable, in as much as there is no point for the Jews to fabricate that whatsoever. They're not saying, oh, he came and slaughtered 600 people, or he came and, they're just saying he came, he said he's got God's name, he hasn't, or he said like, ciao, or,
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. We have reports that are very much historically established of people who lived in Muhammad's time, or who were direct, children to the second generation of people who witnessed Muhammad, who went out of Arabia and did important things in Egypt and other lands, for example, or the third generation of people who met people who witnessed Muhammad. And there is a huge number of people whom we can track. And I think it is just extremely unlikely that Muhammad was just made up and it somehow worked as an elaborate scheme that so many
I'm a
people came
debater now, I can't help arguing as if I believe the opposite, but I don't. It's just that Jay Smith and Al Fadi and et al. They don't skimp on the brain cells, as it were. Like they kind of specialize in their field with the Kirat, the Aruf, the Qibla, all the other things beginning with Q, and the squiggly writing and stuff, and the coins and the everything. So when I speak to Jay, I get like deluged by obviously he's got a set position. It's just there are some glaring discrepancies. It doesn't mean that just because he existed right now, as it were, in that time, his influence would have spread out immediately. But there are things that contradict, such as coinage with like pictures, when pictures were haram. Just little, there's 0 coins. I don't like with him or his name.
Here's the thing, though. Here is the issue. I read Robert Hoyland's book, and I also had a brief conversation with him about this stuff, not in public. I want to talk with him about that at some other time too. But he explains the early history of the Islamic expansions in Muhammad's time and after Muhammad's time. And he kind of goes into some things that he says are common misconceptions, which are Muhammad didn't actually have much dominance and power over many different regions in Arabia. It was actually different Arabs who had such dominance. And after him, the other leaders took over and united those under the Islamic banner. And Islamic history kind of made it appear as if this was all a unified Islamic spread. So there was not really a union going on. And after the first caliphate, the leaders of Muslims didn't really abide by the moral code that we see nowadays. We see nowadays in the Hadith. It wasn't really established. The first caliph didn't care about much of the things that we nowadays see in Hadith. You
heard it here first, everyone.
Yeah.
They didn't care.
The leader of the Umayyads and even the Abbasids, it is said that they fabricated a lot of things to support themselves. They considered themselves the Mahdi. They didn't demand jizya from everybody. They just were like, we conquer you, we take your stuff, do whatever you want as long as you obey. And they didn't really have a proper Islamic system in place. That developed over a long period of time. So it's hard to judge from the first century or 2 centuries of Islam, I don't know.
I just at the end of that, when you got to it's hard to judge, I just felt like I was speaking to a Dawa, just for a split second. It's no insult or version on your current self and your beliefs, but I just had that kind of, it's all about the context, and you can't really judge by. You
have to look at the context. You have to look at the context, yeah.
Unless it's like the verse I'm about to bring you from your own, or the science I'm going to bring you from your own.
You have to look at the context, yeah.
Are you proud of that?
Yeah, I'm proud of that.
Sorry, it's got to that time already. Are you happy to take some questions?
Of course, yes, of course. But I thought we could mention one more thing.
Religion of peace. So weird.
I want to mention one more thing, which is that Aisha said that Muhammad was affected by magic so much that he used to think he had done something which he did not do. And he was so bothered by the fact that he was affected by magic that he begged Allah to cure him, to save him from magic, which makes me think he's the prophet of Allah, the perfect messenger who is perfect at all times and does the right thing. We are to trust what comes out of his mouth. But his dear child bride Aisha says that he was under the influence of magic and would do things that he didn't think he did, or would not do things that he thought he didn't. He did whatever.
He did do what he didn't think he did what he did.
Yeah. Now I see that. I look at that and I think, okay, how am I supposed to trust that anything that he said and did, any claims of the supernatural, were actually reliable accounts, when his child bride Aisha clearly says that he was possessed by magic?
Let me stop you now. Let me stop you. Are you saying, now choose your words carefully, are you saying he didn't go to the moon flying on a donkey? I mean, because I'll just leave. I can't take this kind of shock to my system.
I know it's very disappointing, but I don't think it happened.
That's it. I'm not even going to take the Shahada now. It's just all gone to shizzle.
That happened in his dream. We call that dreaming. I don't know why.
Yeah, well, I call it dreaming. I mean, you call it dreaming, but he called it divine revelation, and everyone has to jolly well believe it.
Yeah.
And of course, if anyone doesn't know, the moon splitting, I mean, we often have eclipses and half moons and waning and waxing moons, even where I live. But yeah, the moon splitting, I don't know how to put this in a genteel fashion. I'm going to go with the truth. it was purloined. That's a nice way of saying stolen from a poet who was trying to split the moon of his girlfriend. Just get a point like that and hope that there's an age restriction somewhere.
It is.
So
It's
yeah.
absolutely disgusting that you would suggest that this is stolen from a love story, and
it's word for word, bro. What do you want me to do? You could run it through the software that my uni uses to check for plagiarism, and it'll go, "What, that one? What, this poem here? You mean like it? Even like a."
okay, I'm sorry. I just can't believe you. The truth is that the moon was actually split in two in Muhammad's time, but it happened so quickly that
But there's
nobody
no
saw
account
it.
of it being put back together. So, I mean, I don't want to alarm anyone, but there was an eclipse yesterday. There was a definite circular thingy, as I like to call it, in what we called the sky. So it was a whole, like, yeah. Unless I'm looking at it side on, and that's the bit that's missing is the other, like, yeah.
Well, I didn't
Feel
see
like
it,
it didn't
so
happen.
this just means that this is proof that
Just because your eyes see it.
yeah, I was asleep and I didn't see it. So in Muhammad's time, the moon was split in two, but people didn't see it, and maybe it came apart forever and it was replaced with a new moon. We don't know. We do not know. You have to read it in a context.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say yes, we do. I'm going to say twaddle just as a word interjected, like somebody with Tourette's. I'm just going to say that word, and I hope everybody.
I feel like I'm talking to an Islamophobe right now. So.
Do you? I'm not afraid at all. I just really don't appreciate. I mean, if you want to bring out your own new religion, not you personally. I mean, like Muhammad, then at least like have the decency to come with a backstory of your own. If you're going to pretend that your God is my God, and your God even said he is my God, but forgets his own name and forgets which bits of the book and forgets the prophets, and then just forgets all of it, forgets how he created the earth for the moon, how many days it took, what yellow shoes do for erections, like all of this stuff. That's my issue. It's not a phobia. It's a desire to see people have the truth. Like that's the truth and what you don't consider to be true. But what I would point out is I don't think you want to kill me. I mean, I haven't finished talking yet, but I definitely don't feel like you should die on a whim just for fun. So it's, like on Sesame Street, one of these kids is doing their own thing. Like I feel like Islam is that kid. Like how insecure do you have to be to kill people because they don't want to be in your club anymore? Like,
yeah, but you have to somehow make people be in your club. So what are you going to do?
No, get a different club. Go and join their club. Get a hobby. Play cards, maybe. I don't know.
No.
Yeah. Get fresh air. Don't read loads of hadith things. Question stuff, critical reasoning.
Yeah.
I don't know. Twiddle your thumbs. But don't like chop up children in Nigeria just because some book said something once and you're a bit mental.
That guy told me a lot of some very graphic things that he witnessed while doing journalism in Nigeria. It made me sick. But before going into that, I want to quickly say, I think as part of a conversation about Muhammad's mental health, we should mention a few things. If you open the book Sahih Bukhari, you see at the beginning, how did Muhammad receive revelations? He's asked, and he says that sometimes it is revealed like the ringing of a bell. This form of inspiration is the hardest of all, so it's very burdensome on him. And then it passes off, and I grasp what is inspired. So, and in another case, he said,
it leaves like the imprint, I guess.
Yeah. In another case,
it sounds like some sort of neural. I'm just going to turn my camera off for a second. I can still hear you though.
Okay, no problem. In another case, it says, sometimes the angel comes in the form of a man and talks to me, and I grasp whatever he says. Then it says, further as a note, Aisha says, I saw the Prophet being inspired divinely on a very cold day and noticed sweat dropping from his forehead as the inspiration was over. Now, the ringing of a bell together with a message being inspired in your head sounds like a neurological disorder with a mental illness. Hallucination is the other one. Heavy sweating on a cold day sounds like something you would experience with a seizure. It's quite common. And if you have a disorder that causes seizures, it is likely that it might impact your brain in such a way that you have a mental disorder and you start getting.
He's also recorded as like collapsing.
Yeah.
I don't know about under the weight of the revelation, but the times when he would be red in the cheeks and sweating but cold and on the floor.
It says that his companion Omar, he would go around with him, and when there is an instance where Muhammad receives a revelation, and Omar then puts a cloth on Muhammad and covers him. And apparently this is a regular thing, like this happens very often.
Well, he asked to be shielded by Khadijah's skirts, didn't he, when he was first afraid?
Yeah.
Sorry, carry on.
And he asks somebody who is there, he says, do you want to see the Muhammad being divinely inspired? He says, yes. Then he looks under the cloth and Muhammad's face is red and he makes snoring noises like the sound of a camel, as the hadith says. Which, is that really, I mean, looking at it today, it just looks like this is something that you would nowadays, see as a disorder, and you would send this person to a doctor, and the doctor would probably say, okay, this guy needs help.
You, mate. Oh no, what would the doctor say? Oh, today you mean?
Yeah, the doctor would say, okay, Muhammad needs help. Muhammad, unfortunately, looks like has a problem, and he needs special care.
I've got another one for you. I was just skipping through some stuff I got here. Misophobic, so an obsession with or a compulsion to remain clean, an obsessive fear of uncleanness, which to my mind, when you say that water can't be made impure even by dead dogs, when you are willing to drink urine from a camel, when you I'm not sure that it's, but the would do and the see, Christ said, nothing you eat or nothing you consume can ritually defile you, because it will just pass out again, showing a knowledge of anatomy, by the way. But it's what comes out of you. It's what comes from your heart, or it's what comes out of your mouth that can make you unclean, e.g. blasphemy and I don't know, stuff. So he definitely didn't. It's a shame that Warwick passed away so quickly, because he may have developed a greater insight into the stuff he was claiming to be a follow on from. But yeah, he definitely had the thing of, but then he only had one shower when he did when he pulled the all-nighter, as it were. So yeah, there's elements of it.
He probably didn't really understand hygiene the way you and I understand it today. So, and he was in a different time. He didn't know that, dirt or brings diseases and all that. He just had specific problems with sorts of, uncleanliness that he had specific obsessions with. Drinking camel urine, or drinking camel urine or milk directly from a camel was probably not considered unhealthy and unclean to him. That was probably considered pure and normal to him. Whereas
really, I feel like he was making it up as he went along at that point. I don't know that was a tradition anywhere. I know that there are times when you use all of the animal and that kind of thing, but I know, I read so much of this that I often don't know where I've read it from, but that he prayed in the direction of his she camel. So the Qibla clearly was pretty movable, unless she was plotted up regularly in the same place. He also had a Messiah complex. I feel like that's a given, for sure. And I don't know about split person, a schizophrenic hallucination, but there is there's a case to be made for that, as well as the sociopathic tendencies and compulsive lying, fabricate. It's not looking good for
he had fear about. Some people say I have an echo. It's not me. It's because of Kay. It's like the echo comes from her back to me. It's her problem. Don't blame me. The issue with the Messiah complex is yeah, he also had a fear of clouds, for example. Whenever he would see a cloud, Aisha says he would get extremely uncomfortable, and the fear, the anxiety could be seen on his face, and he would walk back and forth until it rains or whatever it is. And then he would say that when he sees a cloud, he's afraid that it might be a punishment from Allah. And then when he sees rain, he's then relieved. So he thinks, oh no, something is coming, something is happening, and I am here to save people. And
I wonder if he'd heard, because Warwicker was a transcriber or translator and then transcriber of Christian texts, certainly the heretical text. But I wonder if it was potentially related to Jesus coming back on the clouds and, the association with cloud riding for Yahweh in the Old Testament, with the Baal stuff.
Might be. But it was also just associated with, the Quran mentions certain things such as that Allah sends you blessings or punishment, and Allah might send you winds or storms or clouds and destroy you with them and things like these. And these might come from. I want to ask you a question, by the way. This is something that I often think about, and I'm curious about that. Now, Waraka was Khadija's cousin, and if you trust the reports, he's supposed to be a Christian convert who is reading and translating the text, and he influences Khadija and also Muhammad. And some people say that he might have been a Nestorian Christian. But Nestorianism is not very far off from mainstream Christian traditions and beliefs. I know what you're going to say, but it looks like, I feel like it could be that Waraka was something much more distant than just a Nestorian. Could that be? What do you think?
I feel like, I don't know if you mean Nestorian or Nasari, because Nestorius was a heretic.
Yeah.
Who was deemed a heretic. His idea was that
there are two persons in Christ.
Yeah, no, it was the one as opposed to the two. So two wills is the doctrine that is accepted, that he had a human will and a divine will. They were never really in conflict, other than, he says, if there's any other way, like for the crucifixion, then take this cup from me, but your will be done. And when he says about the Father's will, he's talking about his divine will. But as far as I'm aware, Waraka was Khadija's uncle. I didn't know about the cousin part, but that's irrelevant. What I'd read when I briefly looked into him, that he was part of a heretic, even at the time, heretic Christian sect, or Christianish, as I like to think of it. So you've got nowadays, like the Jehovah's Witnesses, they stem from one of the Arian heresies. Arius was, he argued, their final word on the matter is that Jesus is a God, not the God. So technically they're polytheist, but there are no new heresies, it seems. It's always one or the other of the originals that have just been tweaked up through the centuries. So I've never heard from any reliable source that Waraka was a Christian. I heard that he was a transcriber of Christian texts, but that he was a heretical, because if you don't believe in, I know it's irrelevant to you, but one day we're going to get you, but it was, and that's better than when a Muslim says it, trust me. He was, if you don't have the right Jesus, you may claim to be a Christian. There are Mormons. I met a very lovely Mormon on Sunday, but, and the JWs, if your Jesus is moonlighting as the angel Michael, the archangel Michael, he's not Jesus. If your Jesus isn't God, he's not Jesus. That's to Muslims as well. So you have to have the right Christ to be, Christ has to be God, otherwise his sacrifice on the cross doesn't atone for your sins, and therefore, believing and confessing him as God is what the Bible clearly says is the means of salvation. It's not a big laundry list of stuff you've got to do. doesn't mention giving up your PlayStation or, you know, never meeting up with a chick or anything. Like, it's literally two things: you're in, and then it's a slow transformation.
Here's the thing: I look at it as, you know, from the outside, as I don't even know. I don't even know how to look at it, but I look at it from the angle of a person is said to have converted to Christianity. That is in the Hadith, by the way. Hadith in Sahih Bukhari say that he became a Christian or converted to Christianity, and that he was
From
reading.
What? Sorry, from what? From Qurayshi, or was Khadija from the Qurayshi?
I think the idea is that those two were Hanifs, who are supposed to be the local monotheists, which I think is a bunch of nonsense. I don't think that's true at all. I believe that it's more reasonable that they were actual polytheists, and that he was also one of them, but he was influenced by Christians and started kind of believing in their stuff. But the idea that I get is he was probably not a good Christian because he probably didn't understand it at all.
You reckon? I mean, I feel like he had access to the stuff because of his profession, and that may well have influenced his own theology. So as he's reading this stuff, because certainly if it wasn't for him, I feel like if anyone's the founder of Islam, it's him. Because he's the one who said, "What do you mean, demon? It's clearly Gabriel or Jibril, as he pronounced it or meant it." Like,
that's the thing. Why would a Christian say that? It doesn't make sense. Or why would a Christian who's connected to the Christian tradition tell Muhammad, "Oh, this is an angel. You are a prophet"? That doesn't make sense.
He wouldn't if he'd got to the bit of the New Testament that said false prophets. Anyone brings a different Jesus. Anyone brings a different gospel. Anyone can't remember God's name and pretended to be God. Like, that's not in there. But the implication is there. So I feel like maybe he was, within a heretical sect. He definitely had access to the heretical gospel account, like the apocryphal New Testament stuff, as far as I'm aware. So it's very easy, I guess, when it's very hot out. You're not that well educated, but you can write, and there's not much on the TV, and the camels are all, I don't know, need feeding. That you can, even now, like, there are Muslim Dawa people I know that read the Bible, you know, prolifically, but not proficiently. Like, they're very aware of what it says, but seem somehow to miss the mark, like, uniformly every single time. You're like, what? How can it mean? Like, so just having the info, he wasn't a Christian, because if he was a Christian, he would have said, "What?" like that in English, probably. Just he'd be like, "What? Go away, you donut," or something like that.
Yeah.
He definitely wouldn't have said, "No, it's definitely God," definitely, without even knowing. Gabriel in the Bible never strangles anyone. It's crazy the amount of times he doesn't strangle anyone.
That is the thing.
They give their names, angels. They say, "Don't be afraid." If you start trying to chuck yourself off mountains and feel really scared, that's probably not an angel.
Or he sits up in the sky on a throne and speaks to him, and he's terrified and things like that. It just see, no matter if I believe how I view Christianity or how I view Islam, after understanding Christianity and Christian history, without any reservations on my side, it just seems incredibly unlikely that somebody who is familiar with Christian beliefs in the 6th or 7th century would be there sitting and telling Muhammad, "Oh, hey, that was actually an angel from God, and you are actually a prophet."
Well, you notice as well that Judaism and Christianity were the major, other than the 365, like, other than the little bit part players, as it were, they were the main world religion, I guess, or like expanded religions of that area in that time. And yet he seeks out the Jews, but I don't know of any stories when he sought out any Christians. And if Warwickes was a Christian, surely he would have gone looking for. It does say, go and check out with the people what the book, but the only book that he had in his hands was the Torah. When he made like a bit of a faux pas by saying, "I believe in the one who sent you to the book," like meaning Yahweh. Again, he forgot the name, all of the book, not just the first 5 books in the Psalms and the Injil as it was yet to come, like at that. But either way, he didn't have much dealings with like he certainly didn't seek out their counsel, as far as I know, and the Jews
Well, I think
laughed him out of town.
there was also no big Christian presence, as far as I can tell, in Mecca. There were more just Christians who would come for,
Yeah, but
small
every
matters
time
of
he
trade.
his backside, it's written down. Someone told. It's narrated by someone that he scratched his nose and then a pigeon flew or whatever it is. Like I'm making it up now.
Yeah,
But
I think there was a big Jewish community that he had access to in Medina, because they basically built the economy of Medina. That's what you find in records. But there were no big Christian people who were settled in Mecca. There was even I think there was a war before Muhammad's time, or a century or so before Muhammad's time, where Christians were kind of kicked out of Mecca or something like that. And
the thing is, if they would have had power or influence or money, like I guess it's a coincidence then that the Jews were pretty influential in terms financially, and yet he sought them out for their initially for their favor or their acceptance. And that was at that point that Allah was on board. Jibril was passing down messages like, oh, the closest to you are the Christians, and the yeah, you're all getting in, no compulsion, no, don't worry about it, you're on board. And then eventually it's all like a smite them where you find them, and limb from limb, and Negus. And
here's the thing: I made a list of where is this? I made a chronological list of whenever the Quran talks about Christians, explicitly or implicitly, and in the early times, during the Mecca times, the Quran barely ever talks about the details of Christianity. It doesn't really go into Christian theology. It just makes some little general remarks like, oh, the Christians and Jews, they're okay, they're cool and all that. Only
we didn't
later,
get the pigs and monkeys, as far as I'm aware.
Only later, after his Medina time and after confrontations with
Mhm.
Jews, and then later with Christians, the Quran becomes more confrontational. It eventually condemns Christians and Jews and says, in the beginnings, it says, they are righteous, they are okay, we are all
Take
cool.
your book with them, like they're all right.
Yeah,
The
and later
closest to you.
it says, tell them to convert to Islam or else. So
Or die. Fight those who believe not in Allah, nor the last day, nor the religion of what's name. Yeah. But fight them. Such a shame that he went so sour towards the end. Maybe he should have got out more.
Well, he became angry.
Yeah, that's what happens. Like with most humans, really, but especially if you're under that much pressure to produce a religion of peace, and there's no peace to be found.
Absolutely.
Right. So, should we get on to questions? Do you reckon? Because we've gone over slightly from what we.
What's Christian?
Oh, I tell you what, I was thinking. Seeing as how you've got a list of Christian references, I mean, I'll have that, please. You can wing that my way by the power of technology. Also, I feel like it would be a really good idea because of your lived experience and your psychological studies and your apostasy mainly, but the fact that you weren't just a part-time Muslim, you were committed to the cause. If you were to write some of it down, I mean, videos are lovely as a medium, of getting info across, but lots of people do like books. So I just thought, what do you reckon? Can I write?
No.
No. Breaking my heart so regularly.
No, I think that's a very good idea. I'm working on things, and I would work in that direction too. I think that's a very nice idea. I mean, things could be done, and I will credit you and
with kicking you all up and down the place to get it done.
And I'll publish it in your name. And
oh, brilliant. What you're saying, I can have your death threats. You are so generous. It's not even funny. But I mean, thanks. I could write my own. I mean, and actually write some stuff instead of just live streaming 24/7. And
I was thinking I could write something very good and do it in my name, and then I could write something very terrible and do it
really
in your
rubbish.
Name.
Yeah. All right, then we'll both do that. I mean, I can do your style of stuff easily. Just silly voices and mucking about, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right. Anywho, does anyone have a question for this gentleman who is such a better person for leaving the religion of peace. It's almost as if it's not peaceful. Like I can't work it out. I'll get to the crux of it, but yeah. Stop arguing with each other, please, lovies. Oh, I tell you what I would say. Somebody sent me a comment, and they're like I believe them to be genuine, and they said, "Oh no, don't have an atheist on your channel. Don't like highlight or something or other." I mean, without being condescending, although it was a Muslim who said it, and I don't feel like I've ever had any comments like, "Oh, don't have that Muslim, don't have that atheist, don't have that other person." But I would just like to say that AP can come here anytime he likes, because for Christians, we don't have any compulsion to shun, persecute, condemn, ridicule any. I mean, I do the ridiculing for free in my spare time, but other than that, like, we don't have any of the, we have a love everybody policy, no hippies involved at all in the making of that policy, and a thing to love, I guess not more so, favourably in the house of faith, meaning other Christians, but it doesn't mean there's not enough love left to go around for everyone else. Yeah. So I just thought I'd throw that out there.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. That's a big surprise to me. I thought you guys hate me. So
it's a secret. Don't tell everybody that. No, we don't, because I'm quite good at hating, so I try not to do it at all. It's not good for you. Like, genuinely, psychologically, it's not. It's not something to. It erodes. It's like a corrosive kind of emotion.
Well, I agree that you shouldn't have atheists on. Atheists are pretty terrible people.
Yeah. But come on, admit you're an agnostic. How can you be like? I feel like atheism, in its true definition, is a very ballsy claim. Unless you've checked behind the solar system, as it were, like down the back of the sofa. Like, how could to say there is no, like, it's safer at least to say, I don't know, or no one can know. Like, that's agnosticism, as opposed to, nope, I've looked everywhere, and my massive brain in one body in one point in time is able to conclusively, like, yeah. All right,
here's the thing. I think I just look a little bit deeper into agnostic philosophy is actually something that people don't really that people usually misrepresent or simplify for the sake of using it as a label. It's more than just I don't know. It's more like there probably is something, or maybe there is not. There might be something, but no matter how far we go, it is impossible for us to verify whether there is something.
That's it. There are two strands to agnosticism. There's I don't know, and there's nobody can know, regardless of the truth. But either of those, I feel, is certainly more, I don't know, non-arrogant. I don't even think it's not the right word. It's more of a safe claim to say nobody can know. I mean, for one, I guess you're telling me what I can know, but like to say there's definitely zero, like there's no God, not even no evidence, no God. It just seems to me you'd have to be a God to be able to have that kind of all-knowing. You know what I mean? Like, you've looked everywhere. There's zero.
Here's the thing. I mean, I don't ever my atheism, and I kind of describe it as post-theism and as kind of non-cognitivism, theological non-cognitivism.
I don't know where I got that arrogant.
And what I say is not we have clear proof that there is definitely no God. That's it. What I say in my own mind, in my own thinking, is that there is no reason for me to be convinced that such a thing as a God exists, and it is very likely, it is the best explanation to me, looking at history and anthropology, that God is an idea that is non-cognitive, unverifiable, created by humans for functional reasons, in order to to work as a society, to live together, and to search and find meaning.
Time. It doesn't work for societal benefits. Look at Iran.
And look, I don't say I can tell you, I can prove to you that there is no God. What I'm saying is whether there is such a thing or God or not.
Do you mean there's no why? There's no reason whatsoever that I should be convinced. Or do you mean there's no intellectual reasoning attached to the plausibility or otherwise of theological concept? Do you see what I mean? Like, because you're saying there is a plausibility in as much as some people invented it in order to get along, when the whole history of humanity shows that we don't invent much to get along. We just get on with the killing each other, like,
Yeah,
and stealing and raping and.
I mean, I think people came up with morals and with rules and all that because they realized, wait a minute, if we just keep killing each other, this is not going to work. And not like this, but over a long periods of
Who were
time.
these
altruists? I mean, it happens over long. It happens over periods of time. Like I give the Mongols as an example. The Mongols were people who were very tribal. They didn't care. They looked for power. They killed their neighbors to have more space.
Quite human. Yep, yeah. Go on.
But as they invaded the world and settled among other people, they had to adopt other ways of living among the cultures they encountered, because they realized, okay, if we just kill everybody, this is not going to work for us or for them.
But that's utterly like, that's an imperfect, I'm going to say that's a nonsense definition of morals, because morals aren't adapting and modifying your killing instinct in order that there's a couple left that you can rape after, or whatever it was that you go outside the walls, you go, oh, we won't kill them all, we'll save some for Wednesday. That's not a moral. A moral, like, ethics and morality are not a higher, well, they're a higher understanding of, like, the motivations and the ramifications of your, like, base actions. So you haven't given me, we're not debating, I understand, but it's not really the inception of morality, even from an outward, like, non-bio. Do you see what I mean? Like,
here's the thing.
Killing a lot.
Here's the thing.
Really
you expect morality to descend from a bigger mind. I simply think that morality. I think that morality simply is creates itself over generations within a society. For example,
so pre-Mongols, there was no altruism. There was no morality.
There was. Mongols themselves also had morality. The morality just changed over time.
I know we're getting into it, but
I'm not saying they had no morals. I'm saying that their morals were different from the morals that others had around them, and they necessarily changed.
Motivation for developing morals, if I'm all right, Jack? What's the point in that? The people at the top, oftentimes it's like negatively correlative. The higher positions of power, the less outward trappings of morality, of any giving a shizzle about anyone other than yourself. You see, like, so it would have to be the peasantry who developed to let's look after each other, because then there's more people to work down the mill, or I don't know what they talk about in their spare time, but
often it is. What I meant when I said that the Mongols adopted things that they encountered on their path was not that the leaders of the Mongols just switched their minds and thought, okay, we're going to live like this now. They didn't. Genghis Khan, for example, kept on telling people when he encounters new people, when he encounters new cities, he told them, okay, you have two choices: you will surrender to us, or we will basically penetrate your city and slaughter and rape everything that we come across. You have two choices. Decide.
Who wouldn't want to join? Sounds so. That's immoral, anti-moral.
That's how they were. And then those people who submit to his rule, to them he was like, if you submit to me, I will have complete mercy and justice toward you. If you don't, then I will make you submit. That was their rule, according to the witness records, the historical records that people have. And what they saw is that when they do submit, they are seriously being treated well by the Mongols. Their religions are being tolerated. Their societies are treated with justice under the Mongol rule. But if they don't submit, then they are being brutally slaughtered and killed and all that, because the Mongols just wanted to rule over others and benefit from their.
It's to do with good business practice as opposed to any concern or care for the genuine welfare. So.
Okay, but here's the thing. Here's the thing.
Right,
the Mongols do this, lower warriors of the hordes of the Mongols go to these conquered places and settle there, become part of these populations, and suddenly, over time, as they become part of these populations, they abandon what they learned in the wild steppes up northeast, no longer live like savages, if you want to call it that, and instead begin adopting a Persian lifestyle, for example, where there is a functioning society in comparison to what they had before. And their descendants then actually become integrated, proper members of this Persian society, and no longer have anything to do with the way the Mongols used to live. Just happens within a few generations, and that's how these people change within just a few generations. From a very wild morality, they go to an established morality out of necessity, because that's where they are now.
Exactly. You're literally arguing. What do you mean, sir? That means they didn't all if you adapt unwarlike behavior in a non-war situation, that's not evidence of any altruist, it depends on your definition of morals, certainly, but being good for the sake of, because it is the good thing to do, I guess, is kind of altruistic. It's a workable definition. But for example, with the Second World War, if you and I, even though we're Westerners, but if we don't have an app, sorry, let me stop that thing. If we don't have a vaguely agreed or something we don't need to verbalize about why annihilation of the Jews or the Nazi policy on termination of humans, if we haven't got a moral code in the West that says that's wrong, it's redundant for anybody, for us to have even, we could still fight against them in terms of the Allies, but we couldn't say it's wrong, because we can just say it's really inconvenient. We don't agree with that behavior. We can't say wrong, because wrong is an agreed upon. It's wrong to kill people just because of something.
Well, I think that's what people actually mean when they say it is wrong. You might think that
if they don't believe in a universal morality, and by universal it implies that it comes from other than small committees at different points in time, or moving outside the gates, or you have to have.
Why is it wrong to kill somebody?
It isn't necessarily for everybody. I mean,
why is it wrong to murder your neighbor?
It isn't universally wrong, because it depends utterly on the context. It's wrong to arbitrarily kill people based on innate characteristics.
Okay. What if
one presupposes that they have no control over that, and therefore it's in the spirit of unfairness, in as much as they can't choose to say, well, I will stop being a Jew, I will stop being black, I will stop being a woman.
No, what if without any motivation, without anything at all, you go to your neighbor, no matter who this neighbor is, and you just murder them and take their belongings? Why is that wrong?
So you name to murder. Is it killing or murder? Murder is wrong, because for me, I've got an outside moral agency, and I don't even mean as much as God. I mean, you and I have an agency, if we want to call it that, outside of ourselves, that we understand the conversation we're having. We understand that it's societally wrong, and now we're looking at, well, actually, why is it wrong? I'm not sitting there going, what do you mean it's wrong?
Why is it wrong?
What do you mean it's wrong? I can't believe it. What? It's wrong, you say.
Why is it wrong?
What do you mean?
I'm asking, why is it wrong to kill your neighbor?
Here and say, what do you mean? You'd think she's smoking something. It's a given.
But why?
A universal given that it's no good killing your mother. It's no good raping your grandmother. What do you mean why? Go and try it and see what your mum says. No.
Okay. No, I'm genuinely asking, just to make a point. Why is it wrong?
Without recourse to the scripture, it is wrong, because just from a selfish point of view, now, if I didn't have access to moral teachings, I would say it's wrong, because my neighbor on the other side might come and do it to me.
Exactly.
There you go.
Exactly. So there is
why
function,
should that make it?
utility.
Yeah, but that's from a non-moral point of view. You see, that's a selfish, non-altruistic.
But you have to invoke this in order to explain why it's moral.
No, I don't, because I can also picture it that, if I love humans, which I'm commanded to do anyway, because it ties in. But if I have a love for those who I don't know, for example, Nigeria, I've had nightmares. I have had months of oppressive, images in my mind of children with machetes in their heads, for example. They're not my children. I would have never met them in life. I wouldn't have ever loved them or seen them smile. And yet it distresses me as much as I mean, I won't say my own, I don't even want to think that, but it's a very real distress for me to see these children. And the fact they're Christian does mean it is ever so slightly more distressing for me in a judgmental way. But the thing is, that wouldn't be the case if I was just selfishly saying murder is wrong because I don't want to be murdered.
Okay, but now you're telling me how you feel. Now you're telling me how you feel. And
you asked me how. No, you said, why is it wrong? If you feel like feelings aren't involved, like emotions aren't involved in cognition, I don't know where you.
No, they are definitely. But I think you have these feelings because you have certain presupposed morals that you adopted or that you were born into, that you perceive as being real.
Just empathy and identifying with people you've never met, you never will meet, as in-group, just the fact that Christians are 340 million Christians right now are being extremely and highly persecuted, including raped, set on fire. That distresses me, not because I have to read it in a book, not because I have to have recourse to any theologian or apologist, because these are I consider them my family, and therefore they are.
Okay, here's the issue. You feel bad about that, and you feel empathy.
No, I don't feel bad. I feel distressed.
Okay, you feel distressed about that. Now somebody else goes and says, well, you might feel distressed about that. I don't feel distressed. We don't feel distressed. We just kill them.
I know the people who do it don't feel distressed at all.
Why is it wrong? Why do you judge me? They ask you, why do you judge me? Why is this wrong?
I don't judge them. That's the point of Christianity. See, that's where I feel like our terms are not defined, because I don't have to judge them or take vengeance on them. But
I mean judgment in
to be distressing.
I mean judgment in terms of apprehending and maybe giving them a worldly punishment in a judicial system and all that.
Doesn't happen in Nigeria.
But you would want it to happen, right? You would want to tell them they're doing something wrong.
No. What I would want to happen is for Boko Haram to get slapped up by the Holy Spirit, become Christian, and join the persecuted. That's not even that would be ironic. No, I want them to be saved. I love also the persecutors, and I pray for those guys almost as much as I pray for the victims, because none of it is going to lead to anything. I mean, the people who've been killed, the Christians, they're blessed anyway. In my worldview, they're gonna, they've got salvation. But the people who are killing them, they're going to hell anyway, I guess, but they don't know what they're doing. Literally, that's what Jesus said about his murderers. He's like, they don't know. They need to be forgiven.
Okay, but is it wrong what they're doing? The funny thing is, people who didn't watch this conversation and just jumped in probably think, what is going on? But is it wrong that they are doing this? Is it wrong that Christians are being
yes
killed?
Dismembering children? I'm going to go out on a limb, AP. I'm going to say why? Because for one, conventionally, it's agreed upon universally. But for two, I tell you, this is what it is. And if you don't recognize this in yourself, I think you're a fibber. But if you you listen, you little tinker, shush. Right. So if you have an opportunity to do the right thing. You're walking along the street, you see a little old lady, this poor old lady, I'm always using her, in my analogy. She's laying there in the snow. She might have a black eye. I think I'm going to branch out. And you just carry on walking. You go, oh, do you know what? It's really late. I've got to speak to David Wood for 3 hours and whatever it is. So you just carry on scooting by. And then when you're laying in bed that night, hopefully, you might hear a little thingy like, oh, you should have helped her up. Oh, she did look a bit like my nan. Oh, no, I wonder if she's all right, if she's frozen to death. Or I want, you got that little bit of you that sort of chastises you and does the what if. That to me is evidence that our morality doesn't come from us. Our humans are prone to take shortcuts, do what's easiest for us, make sure I'm all right, my family's all right, but I don't really care about other people. But the smaller voice, the little bit that says, oh, you're a bit of an ass, why didn't you do this, that, the other? You have it, I have it, other people have it. It may be culturally slightly, what's the word, tampered with or different. If your culture is to leave little old ladies, you need another, there was a camel there with 3 legs, whatever it is, there will be that everybody recognizes that thing. And because we all have it, And yet it isn't our first recourse. We always do the easy thing. We will steal it if nobody's looking. We will, lie and cheat and murder. We will justify all of the less beneficial to society behaviours that we can display. And therefore, I know it's not human nature to be moral. And the fact that therefore there are moral conventions to my mind, and that we all know them without being explained. Children, poor example, because they're quite selfish, but once they get past the egocentricity, they're oftentimes the biggest, excuse me, miss, that's not fair. He's something, because they know what a fair is. They know it generally relates to them because they're also pretty selfish, but they know there's a fair and a not fair. And that's at a very young age. And I don't feel that that it can't be as intricate a design and an innovation if children can adopt it so readily.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. Even if if you tell a child that something is not fair, the child will probably ask why, and then he would have to explain to them why it's not fair. No,
it's not about the child. No, you can't telling the child. The child will say why. If you say it's bedtime, you can't have a biscuit. You can have a biscuit. The sky is blue. They say it's not fair because the other child has the bicycle, because the sister.
But no matter who says it, you still have to explain it. Here's the thing. Here's my issue with that. I think, on the contrary, the fact that I feel something when I see somebody else suffer is a sign to me, is evidence to me that I have something in my biology, in my body, that makes me perceive that and feel that way. It is like mirror neurons is something that we have.
So why don't Boko Haram suffer with what you suffer with?
Because they have an ideology that alters their way of thinking. When I see somebody getting slapped, I feel that. When I see somebody getting hit in their, private parts, I have this sudden tick to defend myself as if it is happening to me. It's because I'm relating and I'm mirroring what I'm seeing, and I'm putting myself in their position. It happens. And
empathy has no evolutionary benefit in terms of.
It absolutely does.
It has but it has more so, it has an equally strong case then to be by design, because if you were to be designing a species, you would want them to have empathy for each other, because otherwise they may all just either commit harry-carry, because or the opposite, they all may just stab the guy to the right in a big long line or a circle.
Well, it doesn't work very well. As you can see, there are many people around who are criminal or even in criminal organizations, and they don't really care about the feelings of people who
do actually. They care about no, they do. 5% of every species, 1 in 5 is dominant, and that includes human beings. And if you don't have a legitimate outlet for your dominance, if you're not a politician or an MMA fighter or I don't know what the other, a police officer, a magistrate, something that legitimizes and allows you to dominate or to have dominance, you will you will feel that you're entitled to that, and you will take the shortcut, and you may be a bank robber or someone who manufactures false credit cards, or some way a drug dealer, that you will obtain or attain power, like influence. And that's a psychological, that's a constant actually. The 5%, the 1 in 20 is constant over all species. So I mean that could be attributed to evolution, as most things
here's the thing. I would say I go for the best for the easiest or for the best explanations here, and say, there is such a thing in your brain. It is proven. I mean, we have evidence to it. There is such a thing in your system, which makes you act a certain way. This is probably because this develops in humans and it has a purpose. You would go ahead and say this is probably because it was intelligently designed. I would say, well, that's a big assumption to make. You would have to explain to me how exactly it happens that something is intelligently designed. Whereas, on the other hand, natural development of it seems more plausible. But I'm just saying, I'm not saying
that was a little bit of a hijab move. I don't mean to horribly insult you, but
no, I'm not saying this is definitely how it happened. I'm saying this is an explanation. I'm not sure why I would go for the other explanation, which makes a lot of assumptions. So that's what I would argue with.
Okay, I would answer you in terms of intelligent design. There's actually, just physiologically or biologically, there are so many. There's like the golden ratio. There's lots of things that can't necessarily be accounted for at all by blind evolution. Like, you know, whether you believe in intelligently designed or managed evolution, or whether you disbelieve in like speciation, as I do, but I can fully accept adaptation. The presence of something in everybody's brain doesn't, for me, preclude the fact that it was designed that way. Like, and I don't have to prove a designer or a creator just because I assert that's a possibility. You have to prove actually the non-existence of the intelligent designer, because it's your claim that it's you know, without.
I don't agree, but I would also never go down this line to argue for that. So I don't even know why we're talking about this.
Neither do I. We were taking questions, but we went off on a.
Yeah, how did we even get here? I would never go. I would never say.
We agreed to come on a live stream, and then it all went up.
I would never say God doesn't exist because, you know, morality.
Because of your atheism. I mean, that's just silly.
Yeah. It makes no sense. I don't know why. But
you've got to talk about your senses, I reckon. Right, everybody, could you please give this man a question? He's rambling at this stage. I feel like I've shared my waffle, and it took hold in some sort of I don't know, osmosis fashion. But yeah, if you could all stop arguing, like, because it's lovely that you're very passionate, but talk to the man, because it's a blessing that he came here, even though we're all secretly praying for him, and he doesn't even know about it.
Yeah.
But if you don't have any questions, I'll carry on for a few minutes, and then we'll let him get back to his life, where it's very much earlier in the daytime.
I don't think anyone has questions for me.
I think they're all being a little bit. Surely one of my admins / members.
I don't think I'm very interesting anyway. It's like,
I think you're very interesting. So it's my opinion that matters around here.
Oh,
I'll just let you know. That's all right.
I just wanted you to say that. That's why.
Yeah. Bill's given a question mark. I don't know if that. Don't know if that counts really.
Yes, Bill. Yes.
Okay. Revelation 22:13 says AP should use the brain that God gave you. I feel like that's a cul-de-sac way to walk into there. Okay,
I left Islam with the same logic, because the Quran says that Allah gave me a mind to use. So I thought, okay, I'm going to use that now, and then I left Islam.
Allah must have misguided you into it, surely. He guides who he guides, and he misguides who he misguides. So
yeah. It is.
I'll tell you what then. Based on what? Oh, hang on a minute. What's your name? Bosna Tuzla or Tuzia? Because I don't have my glasses on my face. Based on. Oh, I've lost it. Yeah, let's say God is real, and on Judgment Day, like, what would you say? We can come to that, but I don't know if you're going to give a facetious answer. But Pascal's wager, like,
what I would say is, sorry, go ahead. I thought you were saying.
No, I'm just thinking of Pascal's wager, but you can answer that first.
Yeah, I mean, I get the question from Muslims a lot, but what I say is, if I died and woke up and suddenly I was really standing before God, and it turns out everything is true.
Yeah.
I would say, wow, I really didn't think this would happen. I thought there was no possibility this could happen, but you know very well that I was very genuine in seeking the truth. So do whatever you do with that.
And then there's the big lever.
Yeah.
And it's quite warm.
And then God will be like, oh, okay, that makes sense. So that's what
he's not. Yeah, I mean, he's big on the sense, but he's not big on the going back on his word. Like, obviously, Allah. Right. What about Pascal's wager? What about it? Have you ever seriously considered it? As in, if there is even the most remote possibility that there is a God, the benefits of accepting, even like in a Jordan Peterson fashion, in accepting the premise intellectually, as opposed to having it translated into your heart, as in a conviction. But
here's the thing:
from living a Christian life, like, do you see any downside?
Here's the thing: when I was a Muslim, I heard this argument from some Muslims, and they would read it.
Let's
I know, I
talk
know, I
real.
know. I just want to give an example here. They spread this as a proper idea, as if this was like a I got him moment, but between some Muslim scholar and somebody else, and then the Muslim scholar says, if you are right and there is no God, then nothing will happen. But if I am right and there is a God, then you will go to hell and I will go to heaven. And I thought, man, that's kind of that's a terrible reason to believe in God. It's a terrible reason to believe in
I'm
God.
not talking about belief. I'm saying that if somebody is intelligent as Dr. Peterson can, like, and I feel like he's progressed from this point anyway. If you can, even like in the middle of the night with no pressure and nobody would know it, but like if you can concede that like I say, a 1 in a million chance even that to just like, do you see any real negative? Like, I don't mean the behaviors of Christians, but if you know enough about Christian doctrine, do you see that your life would be heavily curtailed or less happy to be able to try to love people and forgive them and get out the way with the judgment stuff and,
I mean, if you think about the purely functional aspects of being a Christian versus not being a Christian in life, to me it would just be like there is no reason for me to be a Christian.
You're not answering my question, though, my
No
love.
functional purpose for me to be a Christian. If I had to
Yeah,
be,
we're not talking about functional purposes and
okay,
textbooks.
okay.
If there's a slim chance, and also even if there's no slim
No,
chance, what's the downside?
I'm gonna get to that. Even if there was a slight chance that Christianity is true, or that I should believe in it, or that would be the better option between the two. First off, that's fallacious, because I'm not just between no religion or Christianity. I'm actually between no religion and many different religions.
In fact, you've misheard my question. My question is, regardless of your belief, what is the downside, if any, that you see in Christian values and the way of life? Not the beliefs, the actual way of, and I don't mean like a Westboro Baptist church or anything. I mean just loving, not judging, forgiving, being prayerful, meditating on good things, having a definitive concept of love.
Because you were going with Pascal's wager, I was kind of focusing on the part of either this or that. But okay, if you want to come to that, I'm not sure. I mean, there are no huge downsides to it.
That's a good answer. Any teensy ones? Are you thinking maybe no porn and gambling, or like a lot of people have misconceptions
I like
about?
to be more open-minded and more liberal about thinking of societal things, political matters, the world.
There's no consensus for politics within within Christianity.
I know, but
there are very liberal Christians and very hardline.
If I became a Christian and I lived exactly the way I'm living right now, I would think, why am I a Christian? Like, it doesn't make sense. If I became a Christian, I would probably try to be a good kind of Christian if I became convinced that Christianity is true.
Do you remember shortly after your apostasy, maybe when the dust had settled, potentially, ostensibly, other than giving dawa and plotting a jihad, like there wasn't much different. The sky was still blue, I guess, and people who didn't know that you were an apostate were still, like, I don't know, nodding at you in the street, like, practically, as it were, or pragmatically, but nothing really changed other than your inner landscape.
Yeah.
So in terms of Christianity, like, the differences would be minimal in terms of outward stuff. I'm sure your wife wouldn't leave you. I feel like your child would still love you. The dog would tolerate you as it does at dinner time still. And yet on the inside, the potential, for me anyway, like, I'm not even going to get into my testimony, but the changes were both dramatic, sudden, and subtle, and like ongoing. So there was the initial massive like release from certain like troubling things that were going on internally, but then there's a gradual development of an understanding, because it's not like, I've genuinely spoken to people who say, but oh no, what am I going to do when I'm perfect? And I'm like, what? Sorry. Like, and they feel like they've got to give up it's all about the negative. They have to give up this, give up that, give up the other, and they don't. And they have to do, oh, I have to do this and do that, but they don't. Like literally, there are 2 requirements that are essential, and those are verbal and like theoretical, a belief. Other than that,
I could just become a Christian. I could just say, okay, I am a Christian from now on, get baptized maybe, or do some basic Christian things, and I would be considered a Christian. I would consider myself a Christian if I
you could self-identify in an LGBT way, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, if I adhered to a specific belief, I would be a Christian, sure, and I have no issue with that.
Well,
The issue is, I feel like
the Bible behind me. I'll send it over.
The issue is, I feel like in order to have a certain change within, that would have to be the consequence, the impact of a cognitive change that goes on. And in order for me, for example, to ever say, you know what, I'm a Christian now, I would have to be cognitively convinced that the Christian message, the Christian belief is actually true. Here's the thing. There were times after I became an atheist where I felt quite depressed about life and about having no purpose in life. And I thought, I wish I could believe in something again. Unfortunately, if I don't really believe in it, then it's hard for me to...
No, I'm not suggesting that you like adopt any or try to force
I'm just saying that's just...
But what I am saying is that, as like with CBT, for example, like cognition affects your behavior, but also your behavior affects your cognition. So if you fake it till you make it, I don't know, like if you live in a certain way as if you believed something, you're allowing even the neural pathways, like sorry, I don't know what's happening. Yeah, that's it.
I would consider myself a hypocrite.
Yeah, well, no, because you're not outwardly professing a lie. You don't have to tell anyone. But what I mean to say is, if you were to, as a social experiment, Eva, try to, I feel like it really is, the crux of it is how a Christian lives, because there is no set formula. No one, like, unless you're a nun and you have vespers and all of the, I don't know, the different times of the day and stuff like that you do things. There's very little compulsion, like in a real sense, to do anything, like other than seek forgiveness, like from, or reflect on any poor behavior, not with a view to like flagellation or like having a day off as a Shia or anything. Either way, I'm going to set you a task when we get off of this stream. Just one, dip a toe. I'm not saying believe anything you don't want to. But if you, like I say, if you like that, you can make a habit in 30 days, I think is the one. So if you like those people who eat McDonald's every day for X amount of time and do a documentary, I don't really do that at all. But if you do make little tiny changes and there is no negative, like you said, it's broadly beneficial, then look at Islamicized me. I mean, they didn't become Muslim. Like, no, there is no, I'm not setting a trap for you and then you'll get to the end and you'll be the apostate pope or anything. Like, you could stick with your name. Right. Any questions you
the thing is I'm already very much living like a Christian. I mean, I don't know. Of course, there are some things that don't fit. Like
on the whole, Christians answer messages, even when they're in different time zones, like promptly, I want to say. So there you go. There's my sisterly thingamajiggy. No, I don't want to speak in Turkish, Steve, because you may be telling me to say something really rude. I don't feel like you would. Merhaba. I don't know. What does it mean?
Merhaba means hello.
Oh, there you go then. All right, Steve.
It's actually from Arabic. And
yeah, he's pretty hot on the Turkishness.
Oh.
Language-wise.
Interesting.
Right. Any comments for the almost Christian living gentleman on the screen with me? He has also got like a similar kind of necklace thing somewhere. He pretended he got it for a reason other than that he loved it. It's actually there.
Oh, this is a
No, I
yeah.
don't mean that one. I mean the one you were wearing before, but you've
Oh,
got two.
I don't have that one here.
No, that's all right. As long as it's
I have
not.
a regular cross, and I have this rosary thing. So
Because, if you don't mind me asking, I have no
okay.
warrant card or anything, but
Just because it's fun, because I like having things around. Yeah.
nice. Nice. I like
I
it.
I also have this here, so I don't want
What is?
to.
Yeah, but let's not. Let's stick. I mean, I also have a Canadian flag somewhere up there, but I mean, it's
I
I'm
I
still
also have
very
this here, so
British.
this is like
Is
this is
it
the
Egyptian?
Zoroastrian
Oh,
uh,
Zoroastrian.
spirit which they adopted from, I don't know, older civilizations.
Zara- Zarathustra. I feel like they don't accept any convert. Like, how are they still around? I feel like you have to be born into Zoroastrianism. Is that right?
I think it wasn't always true that
Also,
they
the
don't accept.
Zoroastrian told me that because they didn't want me asking questions.
Well, what they are now a community that they say you're supposed to be born as a Zoroastrian. They don't really accept
Yeah.
converts, but I think it wasn't always true. So
Yeah, I feel like it wouldn't have really got off the ground
yeah,
if it wasn't.
the Persians they just kind of converted to, they adopted this as their new religion from a previous culture, but then it
Yeah,
became kind of a club where you can't join anymore.
I
So
did like religious studies when I was at school. Yeah, I feel
it's
now
wonderful.
I tend to concentrate on theology, but
Yeah,
yeah, I did like reading all the. I liked fairy tales as well, like literally, and mythology and stuff. And
yeah,
yeah, I
yeah,
find it all very interesting.
yeah.
Okay, so have you heard of Saint Ahmed the calligrapher, the reliquary, who
No,
was Turkish and an Orthodox Christian?
no, never heard.
Well, get on it, bruv. I mean, that's not
Well,
what he said, but that's what I said. Any more for any more because uh, yeah, it's very much nighttime here, and I just saying
Bruce Six said, did AP just say that he's living almost like a Christian?
he did.
I
He
did
did,
say that, yeah, but I'm just
and he's got a cross next to him. Listen, God can save Bruce to the uttermost, as we all know.
yeah.
Yes, armor of God, you're absolutely correct. I know you don't mean us guys, you mean those guys. Just chit chatting, like they're in some kind of social club.
Yeah, yeah.
It's awful. Clearly, I mean, they're just not that. When he writes the book that I've suggested, maybe he'll answer all your questions there, i.e., not
Yeah,
many of them.
maybe.
Okay, if you become a Christian, AP, I feel like this is maybe not a friendly one, but are you going to think it's okay to go and kill the indigenous people of Palestine and Abrahamic, I guess, nation like Jesus? That is the most ridiculous. Do you want to have at him, or shall I? I mean, is there any historical
Wait.
accuracy whatsoever, or literacy? Like what?
Wait, what is the question? It's like,
Exactly. I mean, I put it on the screen, but I feel embarrassed for the person. It says, if he becomes a Christian, I'm going to translate a little bit. He's going to think it's okay to go and kill the indigenous people of Palestine.
I mean, the
Could
Jews?
stop right there, and Abraham nation like Jesus.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense, but
Oh, but if you put like Jesus on the end, you can say any old shiz, and it just
I mean, the indigenous people are very much the Jews at this point, right? So it's like, I don't know.
Well, I would say, I mean, yeah, Robert Spencer does it. He's got books about it, and also about the existence or otherwise of Muhammad too.
Yeah.
Okay, when can we expect more AP responses to Farid response? So responses to the response.
The guy is so dumb. It's like it's very hard for me to take that seriously and to sit down and to actually give him responses. The last time I made a response, he sat down with some other guy and responded to my response and basically strawmanned the entire response that I made, and brought up a lot of new stuff that is completely irrelevant to the actual discussion. And I thought, I just texted David and said, "Hey, David, did you see what they just did? They basically just, distracted from the topic by bringing up other stuff." And he said, "I told you." And he said they just want to waste our time, and
that's the thing. There's I find it at Speaker's Corner. There's so much distraction and deflection. I mean, it's reassuring in as much as they have no core argument. Otherwise, they would be using it.
Yeah.
But if it gets to the point where they're literally like it's insultingly obvious that they're just wasting your time, move on to the next idiot is my
yeah. I don't know. There are lots of responses that I wanted to make to him. I might do some of them as live stream.
Maybe don't make them to him. Maybe make them about him.
Yeah, I was thinking.
Little sound bites.
I was thinking what I could do instead is to title it focusing on the video instead of making it about him, but just referencing him as a source, so that I don't take him too seriously, but I also address an actual issue.
Yeah, I'd never heard of him. I think until it may have been Rob Christian, but what I do see is I ain't got time for that. Literally, like there's brilliant people who I don't have time to watch their stuff, let alone like pretty poor paedophile apologists. Like I have
to say, when I was making a response to Mohammed Hijab, I actually put a lot of time and effort into creating a response because he was actually he was being sophisticated with the way he argues. The arguments were not great, and there was a lot of deception involved, but at least he was putting effort into making a complicated case. Whereas with somebody like Farid, the subject matter is so dumb that I'm not putting much effort into it, and I also don't want to deal with it because it's very childish stuff. So I really want to admit, like, Mohammed Hijab was actually giving me stuff to work with, while Farid,
it's the law of diminishing returns as well. Like the more like facile the stuff coming your way, the less effort you don't have to spend much effort refuting something that's clearly nonsense. Whereas with Hijab, at least he spends a lot of time with long words.
Yeah.
So even you have to do a bit of translating. It still turns out he's saying not much, but he makes a meal out of saying it, which is more interesting than like a Modine, where you just have to kind of hold on and wait for him to land with his stories of the nails on the ark with the Ali's name etched. Just twaddle, really.
She is crazy. Yeah.
Oh, no wonder they're beating themselves up all the time. Babies. No. I saw what's his name, Tawhidi. I don't mind him. Like I feel like at least he plays the kind of game, as it were. But Imam Tawhidi, he showed these source materials that cover your ears, anyone who's squeamish, that if you have sex legitimately with a 1-day-old baby, female, and if you do that excessively to the point where their orifices below the navel become merged because of the damage, what you can then do is give like a compensation to the parents. That's the punishment. And he was arguing against that being like he's a Shia, but he was saying like but yeah, the one guy, I'll never forget it. He called Christian Prince and he said, "What you're forgetting," and he really thought this was his knockout blow. "What you're forgetting is that it's not a baby, it's a wife." And then like mic drop. And so I feel that maybe they are punching themselves in the face and battering themselves a lot based on deep-seated emotional revulsion of their own like acceptable practices.
It's pretty messed up.
But like you say, people create their own morals.
Yeah, they do.
Anyway.
Okay.
Exactly. On that disgusting note, I feel like we call it a hate ending on an Islamic one. Anyone got any like 2 last comments? That is just like,
and then we got to go.
Sounds so cutesy when you call him Momo.
Momo.
Right, one question from Mamba Mentality. How does Turkey trademark? Oh no, that's the flag. How does Turkey compare to the station of society by Erdogan? Where do you see Turkey 10 years from now?
It's difficult. The population is very. They're becoming more westernized and modernized by the minute. The government, however, is Islamic, and they try to implement their Islamic morals as much as they can. And it could look like on the internet and on surveys that people are becoming more and more, secular and westernized and all that. But the thing is, that's just the case with the more educated, the more active, working, I don't know, people, whereas the rural areas are still full of religiosity. But despite that, the Turkish religious people are not as hardcore in their Islamic stuff as others to the southeast. But I don't know. I mean, I hope that things will get better for them. I don't really care that much about Turkey anymore, to be very honest.
What I would say is that any move towards like a radicalization of countries, any massive political coups where people go missing and Mahusive mosques are all of a sudden like thrown up like they're going out of fashion, I feel like it's a step away from sanity,
Yeah.
especially when there are so many available examples of like horror, like in just Pakistan, just Nigeria. I mean, Pakistan, not Nigeria, because that's ostensibly not a fully Islamic country in its entirety, but Pakistan, Iran, Afghanistan. I mean, it's not like you want to go there for your holidays, but I don't know why anyone like Turks, in my mind at least, that doesn't mean it's in real life, but the Turkish people I know in my country, the ones I've known for years, they're, even though they're for sure Muslim, they're not in any sense hard line whatsoever, like to my way of thinking. And like we have decent conversations. They don't start like a jumping up and spitting on the ground and I don't know, screaming stuff. They just go, all right, yeah. Like, there's dialogue can be had, whereas Erdogan, for my mind, seems a little bit I don't know.
Even those Turks who are very proud Muslims are often just not remotely as different or weird as the other Middle Eastern Muslims. It's just Turks have a history of, I don't know, the Ottoman Empire was kind of, you could say they became a little bit corrupt in religious terms in the last centuries. And then the Turkish Republic was established where Islamic behavior was basically banned in public. And there was a huge secularization and westernization effort. So the Turks are very, detached from how other Muslims are, which does not mean that there are still some religious.
Well, just as a country, they're pretty, I mean, non-Saudi Arabian, as it were, in terms of like a relaxed attitude previously anyway to like Westerners and alcohol being served to like that kind of thing, women being out on their own. And
what's funny is in Turkey there's currently this big outrage about Pakistani immigrants going on, and there are lots of videos of people from Pakistan coming to Turkey and filming themselves, acting like they're taking selfies of themselves, but filming unsuspecting women and little girls and children in the background and publishing that on TikTok and other things. And Turks are getting extremely angry about immigrants and basically waking up to the reality that other Muslims are not really like them, because that was apparently not very obvious before.
Well, you want to start making some videos in Turkish again and letting them all know. Like,
I don't really care enough, to be honest, about Turkey.
Well, that's your morals. That's your moral compass. That's obviously coming into play for the people, like your father and your mother's people, as it were. It's very human spirited of you. I've tried to end it on a high, and it's just not having it. Shah too. I don't really want to go into that subject at all because I like sleeping and I know psychology, but I don't know what you're answering, but almost like it. Yeah, kind of. It's not about 1B either. No, it's actually
no.
What you said.
How about there's one person that said, "Would you ever come to Speaker's Corner?" That's what somebody said.
Sorry, what was the question?
Martin Allen said, "Question for AP: Would you ever visit Speaker's Corner?
Oh.
Jules would go nuts." I think it will be a funny experience. I feel like it's
You're
not
welcome to stay here. Like no joke. You can bring the dog if it can get through the quarantine, but
Okay.
your family, like, come on down, and
Uh-huh.
you don't have to get a hotel.
I think it would be a funny experience. Thank you. I think it would be a funny experience. It's probably not a place that's not an environment that is really for me, honestly.
It's an open air asylum, and you do come from Germany/Turkey, so
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like you'd fit right in, maybe, but you are quite wrong.
I would have to come with security, I feel like.
There are Christians available. I mean, the police will just watch anyway as it all goes. They'll just be off in the background eating food, probably.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you didn't say it on a live stream, you could always show up one week, but make sure it's a week.
I feel like I would feel too hyper vigilant when I'm there and speak.
I mean, there are even though there's cameras from all angles, like, you should be able to see the lay of the land, but you can't really. There are parts that are more easily defensible. Like, there are places where, because other than that, you have a fence behind you. And Bob said to me, you should have your back to the fence, as it were, but you can easily stick your knife through a fence like this. So it's just bars. But there are places with like concrete and defensible positions, not just theologically.
Maybe.
It's not the cards. Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Okay. Right. Let's literally go away from this stream.
Literally.
Because I've got to. Right. Anyway, thank you all. His channel is Apostate Prophet, not Apostate Prostate, which is what he incorrectly typed last time, just in case anyone got thrown by it. He's got loads of good stuff. He's got some really good short videos if you're like me and you can't. Well, you're clearly not, because you're still all here. But yeah, I find it difficult to get through long videos.
Yeah, I've got a few good things here and there. Yeah.
No, he's got lots of good things about Islam and the falsity / ridiculousness. So it's worth having a look. And if you're Christian, like, you may well be attacked in the comment section. I'm just throwing it out there. But he's got an excellent admin if it's ever a live stream. So he's just remembered. He gave me the spanner.
Yeah, I forgot about it. I feel like all my admins are Christians, and it's kind of weird.
Well, you're living mainly Christian yourself. So, I mean, I won't tell anyone if you won't. And I'm going to just answer that, Ivan. I saw that as well, and I feel like I've got that lined up for when I do the video on the history of Speaker's Corner. I've got that on my channel, one of them, Ron Perlman's, and I've got some other footage, very old footage as well. Okay, our God is giving me the signal. It's true. It's time to go. Thank you, admins, members, everybody, Christians, atheists, Muslims, humans, as I like to call them. I'll see you later.
Oh, thanks, everybody. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, everyone, for being here and for listening and all that. Have a fantastic day and stay away from Islam.
What he said, and he also said subscribe to my channel, but you just
subscribe to Kay's channel, please.
It's his moral compass again, everyone. It's uncanny.
I feel like there is a greater force here in play which compels me to say that you should subscribe to this channel, otherwise I would feel bad.
It could be the germination of a moral, like a voice. Right, everyone, get your praying ears on and hands and everything, and let's make it happen.
Yeah,
exactly. Leachim. No, I can't pronounce your name. Leachim. No, I'm not even going to bother. I do apologize. I feel like it's Crean Michael backwards, but yes, you should obey your prophet.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll see you later. I'll waffle.
I'm just flashing my Christian symbols here to gain sympathy.
All right, I'll flash mine. Hold on a minute. There's one there. There's Bibles. There's an ash. There's a thing. It's all over the gaff. But God is everywhere, whether you believe it or not. So that's my nugget of wisdom. Right, I'm pressing the button, everyone. I'm doing it. Bye-bye. See you later. Hang on, I've got to press 2. Right, bye.